Podcasting is all about great stories. However, as an audio format, there is still a bit of production involved. In this video, I want to talk about 3 basic podcast editing techniques that I use every day. Hi, it's Mike from Casefile and Casefile Presents. On this channel, I'm releasing videos on podcasting and audio production, so if you enjoy the content, hit subscribe and notification buttons. There are so many podcasting genres and styles and different kinds. It's very difficult to count them all, but they have one thing in common: the audio production aspect. Audio, I find it's sometimes kind of a forgotten element, especially in big productions like movies or games. I know that I'm generalizing a bit, but on this kind of productions, sound is always at the end of the pipeline with small amount of time and a budget. When it comes to podcasting, it's different. It's all about the sound. That's not to say that everyone who wants to get into podcasting is, so interested in sound production. I find that sound creators want to research, want to write, want to record, and then they want to upload as soon as possible, with little time spent on post-production and making the episode a smooth listening experience. When it comes to movies, when it comes to music, there are kind of hard rules with audio. Podcasting is a little bit different. It's still kind of a wild west, and still, rules are meant to be broken. However, techniques, on the other hand, will help you make your show, like I said, a fabulous listening experience. In this video, I want to share with you 3 simple but powerful editing techniques that I use every day and are the foundation of my podcast production. I'll present them in Pro Tools in my podcasting template. However, you can use them in any audio sequencer, in any audio software, from the most basic to the advanced ones. Let's start with the flow edit. The first thing I do when I import audio into my podcasting template is what I call the flow edit. When I start editing dialogues or narration or whatever, I look at the underlying rhythm of it. Now, it may sound strange to think about dialogues in such way, but we as people, we do like rhythms and patterns. That's what we're drawn to. And chaos and dissonance, of course, have their place in the world, but we do like narratives, we do like rules, and we do like patterns. I've been studying music and the foundations of music composition in the past, but I started my career in movies. And not only that, when I was a child, my parents had a VHS video rental store, so I grew up watching hundreds and hundreds of movies. And movies, just like music, what I find, they have this underlying rhythm to them. And the best of the best have the perfect pacing with editing, with cuts, with the scene length. And I find that this is very similar with podcasts. And I always refer to podcasts as movies without picture. And, I try to tune into that underlying rhythms of them. So when I edit dialogues, when I edit narration, that's when I try to feel the pacing and edit so the transition from one segment to another one, from one scene to the next scene, is seamless. How I do it? Sometimes I count the rhythm in my head, but most of the time it's kind of a feel. So it's more of an art than science, and you get better with it by listening, by watching, by reading, and by tuning into the rhythms of the world. Enough talking, let's now jump into Pro Tools so I can show you how I do it. We've got our dialogues in front of us, but remember, the mistakes, the retakes, the errors are already cut out. So I'm only looking at the flow at the moment, and what's there in front of me, it's going to stay in the final episode. So we're looking at pacing, we're listening to pacing of it. And I'm using 2 tools in order to correct the pacing. One is shuffle, that's what I'm currently selecting. And shuffle simply means that when you cut, the rest will follow. And then I switch to slip if I want to then cut and move something around without the rest following it. Okay, let's listen to a few seconds and then hear how I would go about working on the flow of the episode.
Retiring to bed at 11 o'clock. At 2 a.m.
So there is a change in the scene, retired in bed, 11 o'clock at 2 a.m. Now, is it
bed at 11 o'clock?
I think it's too long, so I'm cutting a bit out.
At 11 o'clock. At 2 a.m., Tom heard a loud thump coming from downstairs. He was putting on his pants when Cindy knocked on his door. She had heard the same noise and asked Tom if he would go with her to investigate. They made their way.
So we've got that scene when they woke up, they heard a noise, they want to go downstairs investigate, and it's narrated really well. However, in my opinion, for my liking, the gaps between the sentences, the words are a bit too long. So I need that more intense pacing. I sort of already composed the final scene in my head, and I know that I like to be intense. They're waking up, they are, moving downstairs. So I'm cutting all the sort of gaps out.
At 2 a.m., Tom heard a loud thump coming from downstairs. He was putting on his pants when Cindy knocked on his door. She had heard the same noise and asked Tom if he would go with her to investigate. They made their way down the hallway together. As Tom passed...
And here, I think the gap's long enough. If I want to a little bit more, I'll just do that. Because, they woken up, they going downstairs, and now, you want to have a little bit of that breathing room.
They made their way down the hallway together.
And then...
As Tom passed the window of the living room, he could see flames coming from the basement below them. He shouted to...
So, they see flames, he shouted, I would cut that out.
Could see flames coming from the basement below them. He shouted to his wife...
That's a little bit too, so a little bit less.
Below them. He shouted to his wife Agnes.
And so I would do that with the whole episode. Now I'm stopping and starting a lot here. It doesn't take me that long because I do it pretty much on the go. So the episode's running and I'm cutting it live. Obviously that means that I'm not always 100% correct. And then later when I'm scoring, when I'm mixing, when I'm QCing, if something sounds a little bit out, then I will correct it then. But that's essentially what I'm sort of calling the flow edit. I'm looking at pacing, I'm correcting the pacing so it feels right. The episode's got that rhythm into it. Intense scenes, intakes, parts will have short gaps. You've got that quick dialogue, quick narration, and then you've got scenes where you want a little bit more to sort of give the listener a little bit of a break to understand and think of what's going on. Also, the pauses are really good for dramatic moments as well. So, it depends. It's like I said, it's more of an art than science, especially when it comes to that kind of editing. That's it for today. I'm Mike Migas. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn about podcasting, you can view the rest of my channel on my website, mikemigas.com. For now, you can share, you can like or subscribe. I'll see you later.